The news travels fast. Local residents have come to see the funeral procession for a young man killed in a counter-terrorism strike by the Indian Army.
We have a new martyr. His name was Danish. He was 18 when he joined the militants. He was a student. He was my neighbor. Look at all the people who have come to his funeral. Danish died on the path of Allah. Emotions are running high. The same goes for the movement. That's why the children are here.
The one receiving their prayers today had spent his last 2 months as a resistance fighter with an armed Islamist separatist group alleged to have close ties to Pakistan. He was one of not even 300 fighters facing the 500,000-strong armed Indian forces. The insurgency in Jammu and Kashmir began in the late 1980s, but the conflict over this territory goes back much further. Kashmir is located in the Himalaya Mountains and is now considered one of the world's most heavily militarized regions. In 1947, the partition of British India into separate countries, India and Pakistan, brought an end to nearly 200 years of colonial rule and left behind the disputed Principality of Kashmir. Both newly independent nations laid claim to the territory and fought out war after war over it. A demarcation line was established, separating the mostly Muslim population. Over the following years, Kashmiri separatist groups continuously carried out numerous attacks against Indian troops, including suicide attacks.
खबर एक बार फिर आपको बता दें, जम्मू कश्मीर के पुलवामा में बड़ा आतंकी हमला हुआ है। आतंकियों ने आईईडी ब्लास्ट के बाद सीआरपीएफ के काफिले पर ताबड़तोड़ फायरिंग की है।
In Pulwama, in southern Kashmir, residents remember February 14, 2019 as if it were yesterday. That day, a suicide bomber drove a car packed with explosives into a bus carrying Indian troops. 40 soldiers died. India blamed Pakistan. Pakistan denied responsibility. War was imminent. The assailant lived in this small, quiet village. We went to visit his father, who makes his living here as a vegetable farmer.
My
son's name was Adil. He left us one spring day in 2018. He took off on his bike. We thought he was just going for a ride. He was gone for about a month, and then he turned up in some photographs. That's when we realized that he'd joined the militants, and we could already imagine what was going to happen to him. When I think about it now, I still get upset. What drove him to do that? I think it all started after he attended a political rally. The army arrested him and pushed his head into his own spit. That outraged him, and that anger stayed with him. He felt humiliated that they would do that to him in front of so many people. Afterwards, he asked again and again, why would they humiliate us like that? All parents have dreams for their children. We try to raise them right and hope that they'll be successful. What happened to him breaks my heart, but I think I would have done the same if that had happened to me. We're all going to die here anyway.
After India elected a Hindu nationalist government in 2014, it cracked down hard on Kashmiri separatists. This video was shot in a village in northern Kashmir, just after a militant was reported to be in the area. 1,000 soldiers were sent in. Local residents were ordered to stay indoors. The shooting continued for several hours. Then the troops blew up a house where the alleged activist was believed to be hiding. In retaliation, angry young Kashmiris threw stones at the soldiers, who responded with gunfire and tear gas.
They're firing live bullets.
Afterwards, in the wake of the attack, many local young men vowed revenge. Shockwaves from the explosion destroyed several other nearby homes in the village. Some lost all they had. Hardly anyone dares speak to us on camera. They fear what might happen if they do. But one woman does speak up.
I'm not afraid to talk. Do they think that we Kashmiris are criminals? I say to India, go ahead, keep harassing us and destroying our property, and soon we'll take up arms and defend ourselves. Soon the women will fight too. Independence is near, God willing. We're ready to make any sacrifice to win our freedom.
If anything, India's anti-terrorism campaign in Kashmir has made a lot of enemies. And yet, despite the tens of thousands killed or wounded and the countless destroyed or abandoned homes and villages, one word cannot be suppressed: Azadi, freedom. It rings out over the ruins, in the hearts of the separatists, and in sermons of some of the local religious leaders. Mohammad Umar Farooq is considered the Muslim spiritual leader of Kashmir, the Mirwais. He enjoys great respect.
Yeah, you go on the social media everywhere. I mean, it's important because Indian media does not give us any coverage, so we have to use the social media.
He has 200,000 followers online. Farooq has led Kashmir's Muslim community since his father was assassinated. His grandfather is in jail.
We don't, support the fact that Kashmiri boys should become, suicide bombers. We don't want our youth to get killed, by like this. In fact, we want them to live. But we feel that, these are acts of desperation. What is leading these young boys towards militancy is the big question. If you look at their stories, if you follow their stories, they have been harassed by the police, by the security agencies. Their families have been harassed, their parents, their brothers. The fact is that today there is anger against the state. There is anger against Indian policies of repression and oppression. They want to raise posters, banners. That is banned. You are put in jail for that. The police is after you, the agencies are after you. They feel that nothing is working, it's better to get killed and kill someone.
Farooq is under tight surveillance. More than once, he's been placed under house arrest.
You can kill me, and then what? Go on, open the door. You want to arrest me, right? Then go ahead and do it.
Today, Farooq can travel to the mosque in Srinagar for Friday prayers. Just 2 weeks back, the police hadn't let him go.
I cannot be quiet on what's happening in Kashmir, especially the human rights violations, the killings. So probably the government of India doesn't like that, I'm speaking to people, because they want that there should be minimal engagement between the leadership and the people. Jamia Masjid is the target. They don't want people to assemble there. And whenever they feel there is anger among the people, they lock down the mosque. last year, in 2018, the mosque was locked down for 16 weeks. So that is also angering people, that brews anger, that, our religious places are being closed down.
Hundreds of people have gathered at the mosque today, not only to pray, but to hear Farouk's sermon on the situation in Kashmir.
For years, the authorities have been banning religious organizations and silencing students, imams, and politicians. They want to show the people of India that they rule Kashmir with an iron fist. But we know what the reality is. Because of this oppression, our young people are sacrificing themselves as human bombs. They tried to frighten us and intimidate us, but they didn't succeed. They don't understand that this is not a struggle of one individual or one political party, but the struggle of an entire people who are ready to sacrifice their lives.
Riled by Farouk's sermon and frustrated by the tight curfew in Srinagar, some tried to provoke a confrontation with the police. But officers didn't respond. But this is what can happen when the police do crack down. Arhan often takes part in these protests when the Friday sermons get out of hand. He's a medical student. He says he's been arrested and mistreated several times for throwing stones at police. Arhan is willing to talk to us, but only if we agree to protect his identity.
I'm covering my face because if the police find out I've been talking to foreign reporters about Kashmir, I'll get into trouble. There's so much repression.
For many in Kashmir, expressing their opinion is dangerous, even behind a mask and thick walls. We move to a different location, away from any curious listeners.
I still reject the use of armed force because I believe in a peaceful solution to this conflict. But I don't believe that the authorities are interested in peace. We want a stable future so that we can build a life for ourselves, continue our studies, or start a career. But with all the curfews, every week, every month, that's impossible.
If you do decide to take up arms, would it be to defend Islam or to fight for Kashmiri independence?
Above all, we want to defend Islam. Our religion teaches us that we should protect our brothers from cruelty. In light of such injustice, it calls for jihad, but we also demand independence.
As the ideology becomes more radical, in homes, at universities, on the streets, the Indian authorities are taking steps to counter it. The problem is particularly serious in southern Kashmir. So the police in that region have put together a team of Muslim attorneys and psychologists who are experts on radicalization. Today, one of the psychologists is going to talk to some young protesters who were recently arrested.
You were at the demonstrations. Did you throw stones?
Yes, and the cops arrested us.
Did you enjoy throwing stones?
I did.
Did you know that the word jihad really means to overcome your selfish desires? Have you ever heard it put that way?
No.
You're not interested in that? Is killing people all you care about?
That's right.
What if India lets us go? Do you know how many other countries we're surrounded by?
Sure. Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Pakistan.
What if one of those countries annexes us? Should we fight them?
No, they wouldn't do that.
Why not?
Because we'll be independent, controlling our own country, and they can't do anything about that.
These youth on the brink of militarism want to be heard. Police also meet with the parents of young people. Altaf Ahmad Khan, a district police chief in South Kashmir, has organized a community outreach program. Today, he's talking to a group of fathers worried about their children's arrest.
I don't know whether Parvaiz has ties to the radicals, but we arrested him. Give me more names. Amir will stay in jail. Any other names? Him too. The same. I'll tell you straight out. The Prophet Muhammad said, parents are the shepherds of their children. You have to teach them right from wrong until they're adults. I asked Amir's father what his son did during the day and whether he sits down with his parents and talks to them. The father said no. How can a father look after a son if he doesn't talk to him? These three young people have ties to the militants. They won't be released. We're still questioning them. We haven't beat them. Ishfaq was injured by police in Srinagar, but we've taken him to a doctor, and he's fine now. We had a guy we let go. He'd only been in jail for 3 months. And what did he do? He's behind bars again. It happens all the time. If we could have talked to him, we would have set him straight.
The Indian authorities allowed us to film this meeting because they want to show that the police are taking a new approach to this situation. In the past, local residents and human rights organizations have sharply criticized police brutality, including beatings, extrajudicial executions, forced disappearances. The Special Powers Act of 1990 gives the security forces wide-ranging authority to deal with the Kashmir insurgency. Critics say that these powers include immunity from prosecution. Lawsuits against the security forces almost always fail. Parveena's son was arrested more than 30 years ago, and she hasn't heard from him since. Now she campaigns on behalf of other children who have disappeared.
My heart just sinks when I look at this photo. You can see his injuries. I'll never forget this. If they've arrested him, where are they holding him? The authorities are all in this together. Why don't they tell us? We don't want money. We just want to know where our children are. There have been so many human rights violations, including rapes, beatings, and murders. Children have been crippled for life, and their parents have to take care of them. This is what young people have to go through. And that's why they're filled with hate. They've grown up with this hate. I'll meet you at the park, okay?
On the 10th of every month, Parvina joins with others to remember the 8,000 people who've been disappeared in Kashmir since 1989.
How are you, Roshanjan? I hope you're well.
There are women here who've lost sons or husbands, and children who've lost fathers. They've all experienced the painful loss of loved ones.
I'm like your mother. If there's anything I can do for you, let me know. You're a good boy.
If he's still alive, he'll come back, God willing. Every day, I pray that he's still alive. If he is, I hope that God will protect and guide him. If not, I pray that he'll be forgiven.
I filed a lawsuit in 1997. If I'd won, it would have given hope to others, but nothing has happened for 3 decades. The authorities twist our statements and invent their own version.
So they gather here every month to call attention to their missing family members. The authorities allow this protest, but little more. Some Kashmiris now believe that things here are changing. One of them is Wahid Para, leader of the youth wing of the People's Democratic Party, or PDP. The PDP believes that the best way to resolve the Kashmir conflict is through dialogue and reconciliation. Right now, he's on his way to meet with a group of young people. 60% of Kashmir's population is under 30, and Wahid hopes that they will vote for his party.
We've announced a number of proposals aimed at helping young people. But what is everyone talking about? The latest suicide bombing, and how it's brought India and Pakistan to the brink of an atomic war.
Wahid tries to win people over through persuasive debate rather than violence. But the political situation in Kashmir is enormously complex, so he has to proceed with caution.
I think, a lot of people aspire for freedom, given the history of the conflict. But people like us who are into the mainstream democratic process, we see solutions within the sovereignty. Well, there should be more democratic space to the Kashmiris, and our identity should be like, there should be sub-nationalism of Kashmir. That should be recognized, that should be acknowledged, that should not be diminished. We don't want assimilation, but we are okay with the integration, but not at the cost of assimilation of our own identity.
In the previous Indian parliamentary elections, the turnout in some parts of Kashmir was dismally low. If Kashmiris are serious about embracing democracy, that will have to change.